Hi! If you're new to my channel and if this is your first time watching one of my videos, my name is Racheli and I am a cancer survivor and I video blogged my entire journey on YouTube. So the interesting thing about chemo and cancer is that once you're done with chemo or radiation and your whole treatment, most of the time people think that you're done and you're healthy, you're a survivor, and that it's all over. But that's not true. I think about chemo, I think about cancer, I think about it every day. And that in itself is a side effect. One of the main things is PTSD. It's having things that remind you of your treatment and of your journey come up a lot. And in my case, a lot of things will remind me and leave a bad taste in my mouth. For instance, if I smell an alcohol pad, it reminds me of treatment and I get a little bit nauseous. PTSD is a really, really huge long-term side effect of chemo. The next thing I want to talk about is something called Raynaud's disease. Before even being diagnosed with cancer, one of my best friends, Marissa, has spoken to me about having something called Raynaud's, and I didn't really know what it was at the time. And then I got more familiar with it, and then as I went through my treatment, I kind of understood her disease better. What Raynaud's is, it is when it's cold, and when your body gets very cold, your blood doesn't circulate to your fingertips and your toes, really your hands and feet. So what it'll do is it'll make certain fingers numb, and it makes them turn white. And I know that neuropathy is a long-term side effect of chemo. And one day I was hiking with my roommate, and when you get closer to the top of the mountain, it starts to get colder. And so I noticed my fingers getting numb and white. So I texted my doctor a picture of my finger, and I said, do I have neuropathy? He said it looks like Raynaud's. And then we talked about it more, and the symptoms showed that it's totally Raynaud's. So that's what I get when I'm in the cold, and it ends up being pretty painful. Thank you, chemo. Another one that has really made itself apparent in the last month or so is my taste buds. From the beginning of chemo, my taste buds totally changed. There were certain things that I loved before that I didn't like anymore, that tasted weird, or somebody said, oh my god, this tastes so good, and I was like, no. Like, I think I'm oversensitive. When something has a lot of salt in it, I taste only the salt. So I'm gonna show you my tongue, and it may look like I'm dehydrated, but I'm not. I drink a lot of coconut water, and I'm gonna show it to you now. So I'm not sure if you can see, but there's certain patterns, which I'm pointing to right now, that they don't take the same texture as the rest of my tongue does. And it looks like it's kind of missing the taste buds. And I constantly feel like numb there. It's almost like that feeling when you eat something that's too hot and you eat it like right away and you take a bite out of it and you forget that it's hot and then your tongue like burns and it kind of has that feeling for a little bit, but then it goes away. Like, this never goes away. And it is so annoying. The next one I want to talk about is fatigue, which could also be caused by being anemic because of your treatment. But my anemia has gone away. I take iron supplements, but I'm still extremely tired all the time. Way more than normal. Way more than a 22-year-old should be tired. Sometimes I feel like I'm 80. Another one, which is interesting to me because, so one of the biggest side effects that people think when they hear cancer is throwing up and nausea, which is true, that does happen. But for me, before I got chemo, I got about 45 minutes of pre-meds, which included 2 anti-nausea medicine through my IV, which means it was very strong. And I did not throw up once through my treatment. I got nauseous, but I never threw up, and I think that it was controlled because of the anti-nausea medicines that I got through my IV every other week. And there were times where I would take my Compazine, which is an anti-nausea medicine that was prescribed to me. And I also managed majority of my nausea with ginger. So I never ended up throwing up. And then once treatment ended, and once I stopped getting anti-nausea medicine every other week, I've noticed, and this is 9 months later, I've noticed, actually it's almost a year later. It's 11 months now. Shit. 11 months since chemo. 9 months since remission. That's what I get confused. Anyways, I've noticed that I get really nauseous, and I was talking to my friend Alana, who is also a survivor, and she said that she also gets nauseous as well. For me, I feel like I'm very sensitive to certain foods, and I think also the heat, like if I'm outside too long, I get very nauseous, and I have thrown up more in the past 11 months than I threw up throughout treatment. And it's not that I'm sick, and it's not that I have food poisoning or that I'm getting drunk or anything like that. It's simply because my overall, I think like state is nauseous all the time. The next one that freaks the F out of me, and please comment below if you feel this way too, is chest pains. For me, I had a mass in my chest, right in the middle, right here. Chemo, what it did is it killed all the cancer in my body, but it didn't necessarily remove the mass. It shrunk it a little bit. So post chemo, I have been having so many chest pains, which is scary as F to me, because that was one of my symptoms of my diagnosis, was chest pains. And then throughout my treatment, I had chest pains that ended up being bleomycin toxicity, which also has another long-term effect, which made my lungs super weak, so I can't be around smoke. It's really hard for me to get back into shape just because it's really hard for me to breathe the majority of the time because my lungs are so weak. And blood clots in my lungs, which is deadly. And I had to get taken to the hospital in an ambulance. My chest pains were also because I had PCP pneumocystis, which is a form of pneumonia, and I also have a hiatal hernia. So literally, my chest was exploding with issues. So now when I get chest pains, I freak out for two reasons. A, because it hurts so much, and B, because it brings into the PTSD, which I mentioned earlier. It makes me think that one of those issues is back. Chest pains are caused by all of that, and it's also caused because the chemo didn't remove the mass. The chemo just took out the cancer from the mass and shrunk it a little bit. So now I have a dead mass in my chest, which causes me so much pain. Another long-term side effect is these weird spots on my body where during treatment I formed extremely sensitive skin, and I formed hives all over my leg. I have scars of that, and those sometimes will heighten if they're feeling sensitive. I have this spot on my ankle. The skin is super dry. It's almost like it's not the same skin as the rest of my foot, and it itches so much, and it's super dry, and it like hives up. And then I've got this weird thing that formed during treatment, and I had a few of them actually all over my hands, and this one just never went away. And I went to see a dermatologist and everything, and it just like it won't leave me. So now I have this dude, just he's a new part of me. Chemo made me so many friends. Another thing, which I think is the last thing, because I can't think of any more long-term side effects right now. These are like the main ones that I experience pretty much daily. The last one is chemo brain, which is probably why I can't think of any more long-term side effects, because chemo brain is real. And a lot of people, when I say that, are like, oh, you're done with chemo, like you don't have that excuse anymore. But it's so not true. So not true. Chemo brain is real. Chemo brain is so real, and it's always there. It just makes me like foggy and forget things, and it makes me repeat myself often because I'm like, did I tell you that? It makes me feel stupid sometimes. And then I'll be at work and I'll like forget something, and then it's so awkward to just be like, chemo brain. I don't want to keep blaming all the things that are wrong with me on chemo, but hey, chemo, you f***ed me up, and all the things that are wrong with me now are because of you. But thank you for saving my life and getting rid of my cancer. So those are pretty much all the things that I can think about right now. If you have any other long-term side effects, leave them in the comments below, and give this video a thumbs up if you want more videos like this, and make sure to subscribe to my channel as I keep trying to spread positivity and reminding you that everything is gonna be okay. This is the first of my checkups that I've been significantly nervous for, and going in with a positive attitude. I have all of these visions of me coming out of my appointment, me being happy, the